Half the channel is in double-digit profit decline in an industry that's growing at 10% a year. The gap doesn't happen by accident. And if you're a tech business owner still doing all things to all people, you're about to get left behind by competitors who's already figured out that the niche play is the way to go. Hi, I'm Paul and welcome to my podcast. And I'm very excited to talk to Jay McBain from Omdia for the second time. You will learn from Jay lots. He's brilliant at what he does, but in particular, why digital sameness is killing smaller tech partners and what niche specificity does that large language models and buyers both reward, how marketplaces and the 6 partners surrounding every SaaS deal are reshaping where the real revenue sits, why the next 20 years of AI will be the biggest partner opportunity in the history of the channel if you move right now. Jay McBain is Chief Analyst at Omdia, the world's leading analyst firm focused on channels, partnerships, and ecosystems. With 32 years entirely in the channel, he's the go-to voice to where the industry is heading and what it means for partners at every level, including you. Over to Jay now from Omdia. Jay, great to have you back.
Well, thank you so much for having me back.
Yeah, so 435 was the last time we had you here, or the first time we had you here. Now it's 683. So hasn't the world changed since that gap in the podcast episodes? But yeah, really excited to have you today. And you being the world's expert on channel, it's absolutely timely, and certainly with the impacts of AI on everything, we're going to dig into that. But the first thing I'd love to sort of kick off with is, there's a lot of channel that are struggling at the moment. So you said over half of the channel is in some form of decline, maybe double-digit profit decline. Why is that? Why is the industry in that state at the moment?
Yeah, and I'll say these are sentiment surveys. When you ask Paul how he's doing today, how do you feel? Some days, a lot's on your mind. There's a lot obviously going on in the world, and you're kind of watching for the latest tweet and things like that. So, I always take psychological sentiment things with a little bit of a grain of salt.
Yes.
When 51% of partners say they're declining in first quarter by double-digit profit margins in an industry that's growing by double digits, 10.2, that's a very big gap.
Yes.
And a delta there. So, but it's interesting when you do sentiment to actually do it on a timeline. We ask the exact same questions every single quarter.
Yes.
How do you feel about your revenues? How do you feel about your profits? So if you could to dial back a year ago, 85% of partners were in growth mode, and 35% were in rocket ship growth mode. Like, it was good times, and it was hard to find somebody who was even flat in their business. Then it started to decline every single quarter to the most recent one we did, where it's completely the opposite. It's, I'm feeling the pressure, I'm feeling the customer demand. A lot of us are starting to feel, geopolitical and economic and tariff and all kinds of things going on at once.
Yes.
So there is something to be said, not at the exact numbers,
yes,
but just in terms of how partners feel kind of around the world.
Yeah, and that is a global, that's a global base that you're drawing from.
Yeah, and we can double click into Australia. We can double click into Singapore or Germany or Brazil or Canada. I mean, we can go anywhere with the data, and we can double click by partner type.
Yes.
How do MSPs feel versus a SaaS partner versus a reseller, etc. So there is things and insights you can read into that. As part of the profit equation, for example, Microsoft and others had made major changes in terms of how they went to market, and your ability to make money at the point of sale is looking different. And right around the time we did this survey, Cisco had just replicated Microsoft's kind of view of the world. And it's a very SaaS friendly view, which is the way Salesforce talked about the multiplier effects in the early days and still do, the $6.19 you can make. And HubSpot talks about the $5.80. And now everybody, ServiceNow and Workday and NetSuite, everybody down the list is kind of in this, resell is only one portion, and it's such a small portion.
Yes.
But the consulting, the design, the implementations, the integrations, all these other things are where the money's made.
Yes.
So if you ask a partner that's going after those dollars, as opposed to somebody who's trying to make, market development funds and a spiff, then you get some of these differences. And just it's important to not categorize an entire set of folks, professional services folks, with one number. There's always nuance. And as analysts, we love to double or triple click into those nuances.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, look, most of the major platforms have changed their commercial terms with partners. And, there was a great article about the fact that if you take the big SaaS players, the Salesforce, HubSpots that you mentioned, overall, they're actually doing well. But if you look on Wall Street, they're being hammered, right? And often what they do then is look at their partners in two lights. One is to grow, how can we, get more growth through our partners, and the other one as well, how do we actually tighten up the margin to bring it back, right, to bring more back on our side. And you've talked about marketplaces and how people are going to buy in the future. How does that sort of fit into the SaaS world as to how will people buy, and how's that going to impact the margins of the partners themselves?
Yeah, and this one was interesting because it's a study in demographics.
Yes.
So, about 7 or 8 years ago, we started watching, baby boomers and Gen X, and then millennials, are getting into the workforce and getting into buying roles. And Gen Z are starting to enter the marketplace. And you start to look at the percentages, and we could accurately predict that 7 years from then, and which ended up being last year, our majority buyer industry wide in the $6.07 trillion tech industry is now a millennial.
Yes.
And so it's not hard to kind of tease out what the psychology, the behavioral differences, the journey differences, but suffice to say, digital first, digital only. There are surveys showing 75% of them don't want to talk to a human if they don't have to.
Yes.
And, you're not going to go through a digital journey and end with a fax machine or, sending an email purchase order. The idea is if I can end digitally as well, where I started, they love a 7-layer stack. It's not a single throat to choke. It's buying best of breed. And they love partners. There's
Yes.
an average of 6.3 partners in every SaaS deal.
Yes.
So, and it's not competing partners. They're not 6 consultants competing against each other or 6 managed service providers. It's bringing in partners that understand their industry, their buyer role. Like a head of marketing has a much different role in SaaS than somebody buying Workday in HR.
Yes.
Or a customer experience person buying ServiceNow, or a CFO buying a NetSuite, or a QuickBooks on the low end, or a SAP on the high end. So it's again nuanced, but understanding that these demographics play a big role in what we predicted was 82% compounded growth in marketplaces. And you hate to do that as an analyst because that's almost doubling in size every year.
Yes.
If you end up being wrong, you're going to be wrong by hundreds of billions of dollars. And we ended up being right almost to the decimal point.
Wow.
So all of a sudden, this prediction started showing up on TV. It started showing up at the hyperscaler conferences, reInvent and Ignite and Next. And it started being the number that everybody used. So they asked us to take it forward to 2030. But we did a secondary piece of that, which was while it continues to grow like a hockey stick,
Yes.
there's a secondary part of it, which is 96% of the entire tech industry opportunity is driven and surrounded by partners.
Yes.
So in the marketplace deal, it's different than a reseller deal where you take the money and make a margin and distributors and others are involved. In this case, there's private offers, multi-partner offers, distributor sellers of record, other mechanisms that are built in. So I can pay the consultant, I can pay the designer, the implementation partner, the integration partner, the man, hundreds of services before, during, and after the sale of SaaS.
Yes.
And when you make a sale, it's the first 30 days with the customer.
Yes.
You better get usage up. You better get them really enjoying the product. And then, when you go and renew, you don't want to just renew. You want to enrich that, upsell, cross-sell that with your latest AI innovation and things like that. So this whole lifestyle thing shows up in how the economics work.
Yes.
And so that's been an interesting thing to watch now. So over 50% of all deals in marketplaces have partner funding now.
Yes.
Just talked to AWS, just talked to Microsoft, had dinner with Microsoft last night, just talked to Google. We're over 50%, but at some point we think in the future, far off, 96% of all marketplace deals will have partner funding built in.
Right. Right. And is that playing more is that playing more at the big end of town to the partners, or is that going to, get all the way down to the, I'm sort of, most people are listening, like you're probably listening, you're running maybe a 10 person or a 20 person shop, right? Will it get all the way down to that level?
Yeah, I mean, we are inclusive of every partner. We love to show, there's, slides behind me are here showing millions of partners.
Yes.
And how every 90% of every marketing agency in the world, as they became digital agencies, are now tech services companies.
Yes.
Watching as 90% of accountants are now tech services companies.
Yes.
So yeah, that's a partnership. And now you have to go to page 4 of their website to see they'll do creative work for you or do your taxes.
Yes.
So we love watching this. It's been the fastest growing industry now for 56 straight years.
Right.
And every professional services person of any industry or any profession is now in tech services. You just have to be, because every person, every role, every company in the world is in this first stage of the 20-year AI era.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter who you are and what service you're selling, it's laced with AI. It's a tech services conversation.
Yes.
And so that's where we are. So this is the interesting part of our industry, and it will continue to be the fastest growing industry, at least for the next 20 years.
Yes.
And it's a really interesting place to be. So you don't have to be Accenture with 786,000 employees to play ball. But one of the interesting things, Paul, since the last time we did a podcast, above my head, I've got a partner 1,000. And we've never really done a global Fortune 500 for our industry.
Yes.
And I would have loved, for ChatGPT or Anthropic or something to just, like Claude, just to come back and give me the list.
Yes.
But 98% of the companies are private.
Right.
They're not in the mode of sharing their P&L.
Yes.
And I just posted on LinkedIn minutes ago, there's a digital sameness out there.
Yes.
What large language models, they are pattern matchers.
Yes.
And when every single partner, like 1 million partners, all say they do all things to all people all the time,
yes,
there's no way for a large language model to differentiate one from the next.
yes,
There's no way for Google SEO to do it either.
yes,
And so we're one of the calls to action here is we got to really talk about what we do.
yeah,
I sell to mid-sized banks in Perth, and what I do for those mid-sized banks is compliance, and these are the services I offer. If I can speak at that level of language, now the models, now SEO, but my vendors, my customers, my distributors, everybody around me in my ecosystem starts to understand what I actually do,
yes,
as opposed to this all things to all people all the time, where you just get sunk in this big ocean of sameness.
absolutely.
So
And
in this top 1,000, a couple things that jumped out, which you'll find fun,
yeah,
is we know we don't live in an 80-20 rule. A lot of people that run programs know that, and I ran them for IBM and Lenovo and other companies. You live at least in a 95-5 rule, where 5% of your partners do 95% of your revenue. But when we did this, it was interesting that 1,000 partners, out of the millions, 1,000 do 2/3 of all the tech services in the world.
wow,
$1.07 trillion in services in only 1,000 companies. Now, breaking it up further, the 30 in the middle blue circle, the big GSIs and some of the big resellers, the top 30 do more tech services than the next 970 combined in white. The 970 combined do more tech services than the next million. It's not a 95-5 rule. It's a 99.9,
yes,
0.1% rule. But the average deal in SaaS or in the broader tech industry has 6.3 partners.
yes,
You're either one of these large partners
yes,
that have scale and capacity and capability, or you're one of these smaller partners that have that niche expertise in your geography, in your job role, in your sub-industry, in your segment, in the product stack that you're building, or in the specific service area.
yes,
They're ninjas in this space, working with maybe a bigger player, working with some others. It's a team sport today.
yes,
So it's not one wins, one loses. in a team, we're all together and we're working together, each doing our job to go get that championship.
Yeah, and look, and to me, I know that you're a huge proponent of vertical, niche vertical, however you want to describe it. But I think that is what you said is accurate. I actually want to take it further than that, though,
Mhm.
because unfortunately, a lot of people still talk in the, I spent 20 years at Coca-Cola, right? And we didn't talk about 12 spoons of sugar in a bottle with water, right? That's not what we talked about. We didn't talk about the sausage. We talked about the sizzle. We talked about the result that you get and the result you feel of drinking that can of Coke, right? Or that bottle of Coke. And I think that's the issue with so many websites that I see from partners at the moment. I go to them and yes, there's a sea of sameness, but they're all talking about the technology. They're all talking about the features. They're not actually talking about the results that the business owner is going to get from having this. And I think that's the biggest challenge. Yes, I agree. I think you state that only 66% have a niche. So there's work to be done there. And 75% of people are underinvesting in marketing. So I think they're combined. But I think even when you get that right, you've got to make sure that you're results driven rather than feature driven. And have you got, what's your perspective on that from what you're seeing?
Yeah, well, let's talk about demand gen. I mean,
Yeah.
it changes, and I think we improve, and now AI is helping us a lot.
Yes.
Back in the old days, of the decade of sales and the decade of marketing, we started to understand the science of this and, the science of what a customer journey might look like from MQLs to SQLs.
Yes.
Today, we know there's 28 measurable moments on average.
Yes.
And that's in a considered purchase. It's psychology of the new buyer.
Yes.
Whether you're buying a car in your private life
Yes.
or you're buying $1 million of SaaS,
Yes.
the average buyer will spend 28 measurable moments. And we've known at the beginning, you're getting smart. You're going to be smarter than the salesperson at this car dealership.
Yes.
You're going to know the price. You're going to know everything before
Yes.
you ever step foot in there.
Yes.
And in the SaaS world, the same thing.
Yes.
I'm going to know more than the engineer that's doing the demo. I'm going to know more of how it integrates. I'm going to talk, I'm going to work these 28 moments like there's no tomorrow. And, heads of marketing are looking out for those ebooks and the podcast listens. They're looking out for who's attending what event. We got acquired in Informa, which runs hundreds of events. I just came from one yesterday with 8,000, channel partners in Vegas
Yes.
and hundreds of magazines that people read. Like it's a buyer intent company.
Yes.
And so CMOs are all over that. And then when you have enough MQLs,
Yes.
to create a story around, you never want to, hey, they read an ebook, they must be in market. You got to have a story. They've done 4 or 5 things, and then you can push it to a salesperson. They'll collect it as an SQL. Well, what we've always missed in that 20 years of sales and marketing is the fact that every deal has 6.3 partners.
Yes.
And they don't come in at the end. This is not a reseller just trying to collect the money.
Yes.
That advisory, consulting, design, architecture, configuration, pricing, quote, these are all in the moments. These are the moments. And the partners is where the deals are won and lost. In a lot of cases, the deals are done at moment 10 through 12.
Yes.
That's when the whiteboard conversation happens. That's when the best of breed is delivered and the SKUs are stacked up in that 7-layer stack. And salespeople getting in late, if you're not in that 7 layers, you've lost the deal without knowing there was a deal.
Yes.
And so this world of partnering, like we've got to add the partners, but they don't just show up there. And you and I know that, the partners probably spent 20, 30 years building this relationship.
Yes.
You're coaching the customer's kids soccer team.
Yes.
You're out there, I guess football team. You're there and you have a cottage together at the lake.
Yes.
And you've, been there together and you happen to work for partner A and you win these deals. But if you work for partner B, it would be partner B that win the deal. Those relationships are everything.
Yes.
And we actually know that you end up closing the deal and winning the deal. You don't show up to the customer for a few months after that. So before the customer's in market or reading ebooks or listening to podcasts, we already know they're spending money up front to these partners to define where they're going to spend a lot more money
Yes.
down the back end. So the smartest companies in the world right now are getting obsessed over these 28 moments.
Yes.
They're getting obsessed over demand gen. And we've been a little bit lucky, but a little bit lazy as an industry. Because again, you've been the fastest growing since we landed on the moon
Yes.
56 years ago.
Yes.
Now, when you're the fastest growing and you could rely on word of mouth, your business is always growing.
Yes.
But things are different in AI.
Yes.
And if your website reads the same as the next person, your social media is non-existent, and you're not engaged in new digital media like this podcast, and all these things aren't doing, you're going to get passed
Yes.
by growth hackers and by people that really understand how to speak this language at that niche level.
Yes.
And again, if I want to win a mid-sized bank in Perth, I got to be talking about that specific thing over and over and over and over again. And over 90% of my customers now use large language models like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude. When they're using those, the pattern matchers,
Yes.
when you're asking about a mid-sized banks and it's showing up 7 times a day for the last 3 weeks, guess what the first paragraph of the response is going to be?
Yeah.
Your name
Yes.
and your company name is going to be in the first paragraph.
Yeah. Spot on. And
This is the new world.
spot on. And I think what's the good news is that your back end, because most of you running smaller shops are still in delivery, right?
Yep.
And that used to be that's been freed up now by AI, right? Like I've got clients that are building AI agents that do a lot of the development that they used to do, right? So you've got more time back. So that's great news. And what you're talking about, that's what you got to do with your time, right? And you can't hide behind that technical wall any longer. And the great thing about Coca-Cola was that we couldn't talk about the product because it was so simple and boring, right? So we had to really be good at the marketing. But when I shift industries from fast consumer goods into this industry, I'm like, wow, you guys are still talking about the bottle of Coke. So I think that is it's perfect time. And I had someone on about video and video shorts, etc. But it's if Google will still always be a key player in here, and if Google's got YouTube and it's going to be searchable and it comes up when the AI agent scrapes, who's the best partner for this software, I can tell you the person that's doing the best shorts for the best vertical that they're in, have got a far greater chance of winning than not.
Yeah, it's funny you said sugar water a couple of times. I just finished Steve Jobs' autobiography, and that famous moment with John Scully hiring the new CEO.
Yes.
Do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life, or do you want to come with me and change the world?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was Pepsi, but yes,
it was Pepsi sugar water. But that was I just had finished that a few days ago, so it's funny you said that.
Yeah, AI, right? Like your view, AI, because my quick view is that you can no longer just be platform specific. If you're a Salesforce partner, Monday partner, whatever, right? You've got to be the champion for the whole tech stack. You can't just talk about your own platform these days because the platform will have gaps. Now, I don't know how much those gaps are going to be eaten by AI, but I know for myself now, I'm constantly vibe coding gaps where my Notion, my Go High Level, whatever isn't fulfilling it, right? So that's going to happen more in a broader sense. For you, net positive, net negative, just give me your thoughts on what's going to happen to a partner's revenue opportunities based on this 20-year journey that you talked about.
Yeah, the partner is going to have a phenomenal opportunity. I said, 56 years of the fastest growing. It's going to be for the next 20 years of the AI era.
Yes.
After we got out of the mainframe era for 20 years, client server was really good to partners. It was really bad for customers as a total cost of ownership story, but really good for partners. They built a managed services industry that is larger than SaaS today as an industry, just based on how bad client server was.
Yes.
The cloud was a 20-year era. And, take away the first couple of years of consumer, all the NVIDIA and OpenAI, ChatGPT craze that we're in. And now we're into the first couple of years of true business and the first couple of 20 years. Yes. But when you said that you have all this time on your hands now and you've got this, do you know who else has time on their hands? Your competitor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a race. And, the race is that I want to use these tools. I want to be out in front of these tools. And yes, the gaps are going to close quickly. And it may not even be humans closing the gaps. The agents themselves are going to recognize gaps. They're going to recognize when they come across a CRUD database. And if somebody's trying to charge them money to get into the CRUD database, they may pay the first time and just absorb it all. Yes. Or they might find it somewhere else. Or they might find out that the database really isn't any different than it was 5 years ago.
Yes.
And with 99% accuracy, just avoid it. Then they're going to test your workflows. On top of the data, you do some things you've built in SaaS over the last 26 years. And the agent itself is going to watch it and go, listen, I just learned your workflow. And by the way, the workflow has 7 additional steps that were built by humans that make no sense, that are just gates to the process.
Yes.
I'm going to actually bypass that as well. And this side door access, so you could be in Salesforce and you could be an Agentforce proponent. But again, when you win a deal, it's only the first 30 days with the customer in 2/3 of our industry, which is now subscription consumption based.
Yes.
You got to pass that over to ServiceNow. You got to pass that over to the CX and customer success and CCaaS and other platforms that are going to take that customer every 30 days forever.
Yes.
You have to pass to the left to the marketing platforms. There's 250,000 SaaS applications.
Yes.
There's probably 200,000 of them are at risk in the SaaS apocalypse
Yes.
because of the flimsy CRUD database and the flimsy workflows.
Yes.
There is no reason for somebody to log in and remember a password to many of them.
Yes.
But these bigger platforms are going to be just fine.
Yes.
And we write the research that, every dollar of Salesforce comes with $6.19 of opportunity for services,
Yes.
$5.80 at HubSpot.
Yes.
It's $7.13 at AWS. I mean, we could rip through the top 30 companies now speak in this multiplier language.
Yes.
And AI just increases those numbers. And so this 20-year era of AI is going to drive phenomenal opportunities, many of which we don't see yet. And I think we're caught up a little bit in generative, moving to agentic.
Yes.
And that's the 3 to 5 year of the 20 years.
Yes.
Next, we're going to get caught up, and there's going to be a few trillionaires created around humanoid robots.
Yes.
When Bill Gates thought that every house would have a PC and IBM thought they were going to sell 10,000 to hobbyists, creating the world's richest person and biggest company in the world, that's happening and will happen. We're all going to have a humanoid robot.
Yes.
The world's made for humans by humans.
Yes.
We're not going to buy 50 things in our house, like a cat litter and a Roomba sweeper and a lawnmower robot and even a digital thermostat. The world is made for humans.
Yes.
So if I have a replica human with the dexterity and the movement, it can go and physically change my thermometer.
Yeah.
The dial.
Yes.
When it sees me leave the house and it knows my calendar when I'm coming home.
Yes.
It can then go do the dishes. It can go mow the lawn. It can drive my kids to school. I don't need a full self-driving car if I've got a humanoid robot that can, operate the pedals and operate the steering wheel and drive safer than a human. So this is the thing. And by the way, the promise of AI is not humanoid robots either.
Yes.
This is where it ends, and this is what the partner opportunity is today 99% of the world's business data. Every flight you've ever taken, every banking withdrawal you've ever made, 99% of it has not been trained into models yet.
Yes.
83% of it sits in cold storage at the edge.
Yes.
So, Paul, every flight you've ever taken sits on a 1964 Sabre system. And you can only dial back a couple of years, but your airline has access to your flight since the day you were born.
Yes.
But somebody has to run into a data center and grab the tape and run the tape. So it's in cold storage.
Yes.
At some point in time, this very smart, empathetic chatbot running on generative AI is going to be agentic. When they cancel your flight, it's going to get you an Uber. It's going to get you a night at the hotel, an Uber back, and then a new flight. But the promise of AI over 20 years is getting access to who you are.
Yes.
So when it finds out who I am, I'm not the guy that wants to go stay in a Marriott and fly out tomorrow.
Yes.
I live in Eastern US in Florida. Just fly me east.
Yes.
I have kids. So get me to another city. Get me to Tampa, get me to Jacksonville. Worst case scenario, get me to Atlanta, Georgia, which is a major hub.
Yes.
Then get me a Hertz rental. I'm going to drive through the night. So when my kids wake up, I'm taking them to school.
Yes.
They would know that if they had my 53 years of history.
Yes.
They would know I would have declined every single time the rebooking.
Yes.
And I would have walked across the floor, changed airlines just to get somewhere close.
Yes.
That's the promise. Now take that to banking, take that to automotive, take that to every one of the 27 industries.
Yes.
And you ask where partners are going to be. That's going to be towards the edge. That's 83% of it sits in cold storage at the edge. the data centers, the sovereignty happening in your region and every region around the world outside of the US.
Yes.
Even months ago, we would have thought more of it's going to happen in clouds and major trillion-dollar hyperscalers. And now more of it's going to happen towards the edge, not only in their data centers, but when they dethaw that data,
Yes.
you can't do the data processing and cleansing, everything else that you want to do on that old mainframe.
Yes.
You got to move it to a modern infrastructure, and customers are going to want to either do it on their floor or co-load or hybrid or virtual near the edge. The closer to the edge, the bigger the opportunity for partners.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I know that well, it's going to be so fascinating who wins the end consumer, because if I look at the robots, right, every robot will need to know every data point in a house. So where's all that stored? So to me, I've heard that Salesforce's players, they want to be the ones that hold every data point so the humanoid robots can actually function, right? Because they can't function without data. And I know you say that, data's it's the critical link to AI. Without having the clean data, it's not there at all. And but yeah, for me, when I was, and I know I've mentioned Coke a couple of times, but I spent 20 years there, right? It was the only company I worked for. But in 1993, a guy came in from Nokia, funny enough, and he said, we're going to have these mobile phones, and you will, what you just talked about, the airline journey, he said that'll be all digitized. So you will not have a car key. So you'll walk up to your hire car and you'll open it with your phone. You'll do everything in your mobile phone. And I'm in the room thinking, that is brilliant. And most people are like, that's never going to happen. What you just spoke about, I feel like it's that Nokia moment for me again, right? Like, this is the future. My biggest risk is, what are we going to do? How will we continue to evolve? We always have, and I know we will, but it's like there's going to be a lot of time to strategically think when you're not doing all the stuff that you don't want to do in your life. So anyway.
But you got to keep your eye on the ball.
Yes.
So you mentioned Salesforce. Yesterday, they wrote a $50 million check, 50,
Yeah.
to the channel.
Yes.
They updated their app exchange to now an agent exchange.
Yes.
And there's $50 million in funding to help partners go and connect those data points.
Yes.
Connect it to Tableau, connect it to Slack, connect it to MuleSoft, obviously connect it to the marketing and sales and partner systems that they've got. The last week, Anthropic wrote a $100 million check.
Yes.
So watching, this space and watching these players who want to win in this 20-year era and become their own trillion-dollar companies are the ones that are writing checks. And if you actually track who they're writing the checks to,
Yes.
partners.
Yes.
They recognize the 6.3 partners surrounding every customer,
Yes.
their ability to win. And by the way, Salesforce is a company that got to 40 billion direct.
Yes.
They got on the Dow 30 direct.
Yes.
And here's a company that's betting their entire future on that marketplace, connected to partners,
Yes.
connected to what were the lightning flows and lightning bolts, now the agent force. And that's their play to go beat up on some of the hyperscalers and beat up on, even some of the AI players to get their, and there's no winners and losers. At this level, there's always multiple
Yes.
winners at the platform level.
Yes.
And you go from hundreds of billions of value to trillions of dollars of value once you achieve that platform level.
Yes.
And that's what Salesforce is chasing. That's what HubSpot is chasing. That's what ServiceNow is chasing. You watch it, all these platforms as they take shape, they are going to be super winners.
Yes.
And right now, with the things that have happened to their stock prices and stuff like that, smart people in the channel and people that have worked with these companies for 20 years or more, for your retirement, it's probably, and I'm not a financial person and I'm not giving you advice here.
Yes.
But there are some companies you buy on the dip.
Yeah.
And just knowing what we know and knowing how they're thinking about their success through us,
Yes.
I would say that's a good bet.
Yeah, and there's normally two layers I always look at. One is if they're buying stock back, because that's one point. But if the executive team, in particular the founder, if they're buying stock, I think that's normally a pretty good indication that they know a lot more about the future and where it's going than what the market does. So Yeah, I think that's right. And for you, like, do you think the key players that we've been talking about will still be those key players we're talking about in 20 years?
Well, there's going to be new ones. So here's a fun fact. If you look at the Fortune 500, every 20 years, I talked about the 20-year eras in tech.
Yes.
Well, we've been the fastest growing for 56 years. It's been broken up into these 20-year eras.
Yes.
Now we're in this new 20-year era. But if you go to business and our customers,
Yes.
the global Fortune 500, if you get the magazine from 20 years ago today, 53% of the companies no longer exist.
Mm.
You can compare any 20 years between two magazines,
Yes.
and the churn rate is over half of, the biggest companies who have money in the bank to go and M&A their way out of problems.
Yes.
Now, 71% of tech companies that aren't in the Fortune 500 fail over 10 years.
Right.
So just think that all the companies we know and love today, and by the way, Coca-Cola and Nike and Starbucks and McDonald's and all these, brands that we think about every day, and they're going to be here in 20 years, but you start to think about over half the companies that have reached this pinnacle
Yes.
are going to fail the AI era.
Yes.
And then did they choose the right investments with partners?
Yes.
Did they have the right 6.3 people surrounding them?
Yes.
The decisions you make today in this new era, this inflection point that we're at, is absolutely make or break or life and death
Yes.
for, again, all the companies we know and love.
Yes. And that's why you've got to subscribe to Jay and listen to Jay, because Jay is going to give you a perspective on who that is like no one else on the planet. So what we're going to do now, Jay, is just pause for a moment, thank our sponsors, and then we'll be back for the rapid fire. Quick break. Take the big promise audit. 3 questions, 60 seconds. It tells you whether your positioning is quietly leaking margin every month. If you score 2 or 3, your marketing is costing you more than you think. It's completely free, and you can get it at paulhigginsmentoring.com/audit. That's paulhigginsmentoring.com/audit. There'll also be a link in the show notes. Now, back to the show. Jay, ready for the rapid fire?
Let's do it.
4 questions, 4 quick answers. So the first one is, you personally, what AI is really impressing you right now?
Claude Cowork.
Brilliant. Next is, what do you see, and we've talked a lot about it, but what do you see for the smaller end of the partner land, the best go-to-market strategy?
Get hyper-specific. I just posted minutes ago on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Get away from digital sameness.
Yes. Yep.
When your digital customer goes on LinkedIn and finds out you have 10 employees and can actually read all 10 resumes, and then goes to your website and see that you do all things to all people all the time, you lose trust. It's better off saying what you do by segment, by industry, by buyer type, by product, by service. Go into the 6 different spheres and say, listen, I am an absolute master of this.
Yes.
This and this alone.
Yes.
And now nobody can touch me.
Yes.
And everybody will pick that up, including your customer, including the large language models. We said earlier that, this niche is doing better than the big players.
Yes.
And that's probably going to continue.
Yes.
You want to be niche. You
Yes.
want to be big. Just don't get caught in the middle.
Yes. Perfect. And to me, I love that good to great quote, hedgehog versus fox. I think this is the perfect time to be the hedgehog, not the fox. I know that you live on learning. Is there any advice on some sources of learning that maybe people aren't aware of in this industry that they could go to other than yourself?
Yeah, I worry about books. And funny you bring up Good to Great.
Yeah.
It was the book of the time, and I was at IBM, and it was required reading.
Yes.
And the 35 years that he monitored all these great companies and came to these grand conclusions, 7 of the 11 are now bankrupt.
Right.
And when I said 53% don't exist, it was worse in Good to Great.
Right.
So today we can go and look at all these wonderful companies and come up with these masterful conclusions as a writer.
Yes.
About how great they are. And then somebody like me is going to point out 10 or 20 years from now, well, that's great. 7 of the 11 are now bankrupt. So I would want to make sure that I'm following, smart people.
Yes.
They've got the inside track, that have had success doing what I do.
Yes.
I am all about community. about peer groups. Behind me, I've got 1,000 different places that we go.
Yes.
And I don't want to be listening to, somebody who made $1 trillion and some edge case. I want to find out who has done what I want to do.
Yes.
They got their business from 1 million to 10 million.
Yes.
If I want to get my business to 100 million, you're the product. And I tell my kids, you're the product of the 5 people you hang around.
Yes.
So stop hanging around $10 million people.
Yes.
And go find 5 friends that have built their business to 100 million. And just by osmosis, you'll find at some point you're in a $100 million business.
Yes.
So that's my advice: is find your community, find your peer group, find resources like this podcast, and immerse yourself.
Brilliant. Last one is, you've been in this industry for a hell of a long time. What have you, what do you know now that you wish you had have known when you started this journey?
Yeah, 32 years. And every one of those days have been in the channel.
Yes.
I wish I would have known that, partnerships, which are now synonymous with platforms, were what were going to take us through this years of growth.
Yes.
We got so focused at some point in client server about resell and how money changes hands. And then marketplaces kind of blow that up.
Yes.
And then SaaS companies come along and, they average about 22% resell.
Yes.
And they become part of the Fortune 500. They become part of the Dow 30. We keep getting reminded, that it's the broader partnerships that do everything. And I'll end in this story. A couple of weeks ago, I got to do the keynote at Google Wiz.
Yes.
And it felt like a Microsoft moment for me in almost the 1980s or in early 1990s. I remember when my local sales rep, I was IBM and they were Microsoft, had $10 million. And even the secretary at Microsoft was a millionaire.
Yes.
So at Google Wiz, it started, 5 years ago in Israel, and they built the company up. And that morning, Google got up there and, said that the acquisition for $30+ billion was complete. And all the 2,000 sales reps that were there for the sales kickoff were millionaires as of minutes ago before I got on stage.
Yes.
But the CEO then of Wiz got up on stage and he showed 2 emails. The first one was from Thomas Kurian from Google Cloud, CEO of Google Cloud, saying, "Hey, like what you're doing, love to partner." It started as a partnering moment. He ignored it. He sent a second email. He punted it to his partner team. Didn't go on LinkedIn, didn't find out who this was running a multi-trillion-dollar company. It took the CEO of Alphabet, his boss, to send another email saying, nudge, we need to talk. And that was a $32 billion phone call. So almost everything in life starts as a partnership moment.
Yes.
And I wish I would have known that 32 years ago.
Yeah. Well said. It's been an absolute joy having you on. Let's have you on as a three-peat sooner than we did the second. But love learning from all of your insights. And we'll have all the links and everything to Jay in the show notes so that you can do the same. Thanks, Jay, for coming on today.
All right. Thanks so much.
What a great interview with Jay. And the exciting thing is he said he's going to do this every year, which is great. But Jay's core message, stop hiding behind the technology and start owning the niche. So specific that buyers, vendors, and AI models all know exactly what you do. The channel opportunity has never been bigger, but only those who get hyper specific now will win. Reach out to Jay on LinkedIn, and I really recommend you follow him. Ask him some questions based on, just the sheer amount of knowledge he's got in this space. And you can watch him on the Paul Higgins channel, the YouTube channel, just Paul Higgins Mentoring. And all the links will be in the show notes. See you next time on my podcast. That's a wrap for today's conversation. If it landed, the next step is simple. Book a 30-minute call at talkpaul.com. That's talkpaul.com. You talk about where you are now, where you want to be, and what's blocking you or getting in the road. If I can help, we'll go from there. And if you found value in this episode, share it with one other SaaS partner who needs to hear it today. Until next time, goodbye.